afternoon, everyone. We'll just give a minute. Welcome. All right. Why don't we get this show on the road? Welcome, everybody. My Dave Arbuckle. And I am thrilled to be in this virtual room with so many of our amazing municipal leaders and academics in the space to talk about really important publications inside public sector innovation. I know when I creep a couple, Zach Spicer's Instagram accounts, and I remember seeing getting a tease of this publication when it was in development. And I was even more thrilled to hear that McGill-Queen's University Press publication, and the opportunity for us showcase this publication is great. AMCTO is an organization that one of our goals is really to promote the sorry, yeah, maybe I'll take off my mic. I hear my audio a little bit off, so maybe I'll try that overall. Maybe Jacqueline, you can just let me know whether or not you can hear me okay. Joe, how's that audio
Yeah,
on your end?
that's
Working
better,
better?
Dave.
Okay,
Yeah, that's better.
great.
Yep.
So let's just overall, again, we're really happy to, as an association, to try to promote research that's being done within the sector. And one of those attempts on our end is to highlight and get into partnerships with organizations like McGill-Queen's University Press, and really provide a little bit more access to our membership of these publications. So we do have currently have an affinity partnership with McGill-Queen's University Press, which offers our members 30% off of publications like this one here. Now, again, I can't tell you exactly what the deal is, but I will at the end of the program, telling a little bit about a special offer for those that are attending today. So with that tease in place, I will turn it over to my friend and colleague, Joe Lyons, to start leading us through the program. Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. So, hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks again to Dave Arbuckle for his opening remarks and to AMCTO and McGill-Queens for putting on this event. Special thanks to Jacqueline Folville from AMCTO and Anna Del Cole from McGill-Queens for their behind-the-scenes work. So I'm Joe Lyons. I'm an assistant professor of political science at Western University. I'm joined here today by my colleague and co-editor Zach Spicer, who is an associate professor in the School of Public Administration and Policy and head of New College at York University. Emma McGarry Ware, who is manager of innovation at the Regional Municipality of Durham. Chris Walker, who is Chief Information Officer for the town of Ajax, and Simona Dinu, who is the Director of Service Excellence for Hamilton Public Library. Apart from all the other author chapters or chapter authors from the book, we're also missing our other co-editor, Tyler Romualdi. Tyler is in the process of moving to Kingston, where he'll start a postdoc at Queen's in the fall. Okay, so here's our plan for today's webinar. I'm going to set things up by talking a little bit about how the idea for the book came about, how we went about putting it together, and how we see it as contributing to research on public sector innovation. Next, Emma, Chris, and Simona will each spend about 5 minutes talking about the innovations that they wrote about in their chapters by focusing on the main problem that the innovation was intended to solve, walking us through the adoption and rollout of the innovation, and sharing their takeaways from the process and the short and medium term effects of the innovation that they've observed so far. After the author presentation, Zach will quickly sum things up, and then there should be plenty of time for audience questions. All right, so public sector innovation, kind of what were we thinking? Well, under Zach's leadership, we received a grant, an insight grant from the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada to study municipal innovation. One of the larger aims associated with this project is to explore whether existing concepts and typologies related to public sector innovation are well suited to capture the essence of the innovations happening at the local level in Canada as well as elsewhere. And an observation that we made early on was that there was a lack of really rich qualitative description related to local government innovation at the local related to innovation at the local level, and especially in Canada. So because of our teaching and research interests, Zach and I spend a lot of time straddling the line between research and practice. So this is a gap that we did want to address. So our intent was not only to make an academic contribution, but also to grapple with some of what is already known about public sector innovation in a way that we hoped would make sense to and resonate with local government administrators and elected officials. So to do this, we felt that we needed to go to the source and have those who were involved in adopting an innovation tell their own stories, rather than to try to gather information through more traditional academic means like interviews or surveys. So this was an innovative approach for us because it's something that we had never tried before. But we are certainly not the first academics to have practitioners write their own chapters as part of an edited volume. Indeed, a book that many of you might be familiar with, The Role of Canadian City Managers in Their Own Words, which was co-edited by Fenn, McIntosh, and Siegel, came out kind of around the same time as we were just getting started on this project. And so much like many of the administrators from our book, we went about trying to learn from our peers about how to pull this off. So we had some really helpful exchanges early on with David Siegel, and those exchanges really convinced us that we needed to come up with a clear chapter template for the authors to follow. So basically, we had the authors divide their chapters into 4 sections: an introduction, a section on background and problem definition, a section on the innovation itself, and a final section on results and reflections, with the aim of trying to have some consistency throughout all of the chapters and to really kind of pull out what we thought were the most important aspects of these various innovations. So we also used a similar outline for the initial presentations that we had prospective authors prepare for an online workshop that was hosted by the Institute of Public Administration of Canada in May 2023. So that kind of gives you a sense, I guess, of like how long this all took. Just under 3 years, basically. So apart from learning about potential contributions from this workshop, we also hope to solicit chapters from municipalities beyond our network and across the country. We were somewhat successful in this regard, at least in terms of the workshop. But in the end, we only ended up securing 2 chapters from outside of Ontario, and both are from BC. These are the chapters from the City of Richmond and the District of Squamish. Okay, so hopefully everyone is now situated on how this project came into being. Now I want to set the scene for the author presentations, which is what you are all likely here for. So I briefly mentioned existing innovation typologies earlier, and we really leaned into these typologies when we were thinking about how we wanted to organize the chapters for the book. So we ended up coming up with our own 3-category hybrid typology consisting of organizational innovations, process innovations, and service innovations. So the first 2 types are more inward facing. Organizational innovations are about changing formal structures and reconceptualizing problems and solutions. This type of innovation is intentional and requires senior level support and approval. Organizational innovations are represented here today by Emma's chapter on Durham Region's Innovation and Design Services. Process innovations are about tackling administrative bottlenecks, and this is often done through a combination of coordinating the activities of actors, both internal and external to the organization, and through the adoption of new technology. Process innovations are represented here today by Chris's presentation of his and Nicole Cooper's chapter on Ajax's fire data mapping and senior and qualified resident snow removal program. The third and final category is service innovations. So service innovations are the most outward or the most public facing and therefore often involve a high level of risk. Service innovations are about the introduction of new public services and products to address existing problems as well as emerging policy issues or policy challenges. Service innovations are represented here today by Simona's presentation on her and Sherry Fahim's chapter on Hamilton Public Library's extended access locations. Okay, so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Emma for the first of our three author presentations. Oh, there you go, Emma.
I'm here. Apologies. It took me a minute to unmute and find my video amidst the screen sharing, but thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm excited to be here to talk a little bit about innovation and design services at the Regional Municipality of Durham. So I'll be talking about the challenge that we set out to solve and how this solution solved that challenge, as well as the impact that we're now having. So this story really begins back in 2022 when my team, an innovation team within the CAO's office of the organization, really set out to understand innovation across the organization. So what we heard immediately was that while innovation was happening, teams did not rate the organization as being particularly good at supporting innovation. So you can see here the average score of the organization's capacity to support innovation was rated as 2.4 on a scale of 1 to 5. And so we described this as a bit of an innovation gap where leaders wanted and needed to innovate, but staff didn't always feel supported in doing so. And so to find out what was happening, we talked to staff and leaders, and we analyzed their insights into a set of drivers of innovation. So this is a framework that helps describe the key conditions that help or hinder innovation, specifically in our organization. And so these drivers are leadership and integration, communication and connection, policy and process that enable innovation, digital mindset, and optimize resources. So to tell the story specifically about innovation and design services, I'm going to focus on two of these drivers and their subcomponents in particular. The first is under policy and process, enabling innovation. So here, staff told us that there wasn't a clear process for moving ideas forward. One team member said it sometimes feels like you're pitching an idea out of thin air. It gets kicked around from one division to another, and there's no framework. It would be helpful to have something that supports this process. The other big challenge I want to highlight was under optimized resources. So we consistently heard a need for customized supports. As one leader put it, we often need to collaborate with other groups. That's complex and takes time. Staff have their primary job function and want to engage in innovation, but need more support to do so. So these two gaps, the need for clear innovation processes and customized supports to navigate those processes effectively became the foundation for building an innovation support service. And we called this service Innovation and Design Services. And the goal was simple: to make innovation easier for teams across the whole organization with a clear process as well as customized supports to support that process. So our service has three streams of support. Coach is the first tier. It's light touch. It involves having accessible online toolkits available to staff, as well as our team giving advice, feedback, and coaching along the way, as the name suggests. The next tier, facilitate, goes deeper into directly designing and delivering a customized innovation process for teams, supporting things like user research, as well as structured facilitated workshops that support teams to work together throughout the problem mapping, design, prototyping, and user testing phases of that innovation process. And finally, accelerate is our most intensive level of support, moving projects further into that stage of early implementation by supporting them as they're doing early pilots, building project governance frameworks, and especially impact evaluation to be able to measure those early outcomes and iterate based on that data to support improvement and iteration of their early solution. So each of these three streams builds on the one before it and creates some flexibility for my team to support teams while working really directly with the solution owners so that we can also build capability across the organization as we collaborate with them. Okay, so for outcomes, I would like to first focus on really where the impact is connected to the drivers of innovation. So those drivers of innovation I articulated earlier: clear innovation processes and customized supports. So related to clear innovation processes, one of the things that actually surprised us regarding the impacts of this service was not only do we save teams time by supporting them with best practice methods and a clear process to work through their innovation, but what we hear time and time again is that their work and their projects just would not have happened any other way. So for example, one leader that we worked with told us that they had been working for 3 years, spinning their wheels, trying to move a project forward, and a design sprint that we supported helped make it happen within weeks. So we really do hear this a lot from teams, that we are helping things that are stuck get unstuck by supporting that clear process and alignment to build that forward momentum for teams. Next, under customized supports, we carried out a market value analysis to evaluate how much our same services cost when procured from an external consultant. So since the launch in 2024, we've delivered almost $1 million in market value equivalent, which easily is a doubling of a return on investment. So while there is still a lot of work to do, and of course there's many regional efforts beyond our team that enables innovation and enables innovation maturity across our organization, we have been tracking that innovation maturity score in the organization's capacity to support innovation, and we have seen a bit of an increase from 2.4 to 3.1 out of 5. So that is progress. And I'll close by saying that what makes the work truly impactful is the people, the innovation team, as well as the innovators that we have the privilege of working with across the organization, really brings so much expertise and passion and commitment. And and really connecting with that purpose of what we do as public servants every day to find new ways to deliver better value for residents. And that's absolutely the best part of this work. So thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to present today. I'll pass it on to the next presenter.
I think that's working. And everyone, okay, I think I'm good to go. Thank you, or thanks, Emma, and thank you, everyone, for coming. This is my first AMCTO event. You may be used to seeing the name Nicole Cooper tied with the town of Ajax. So I'm sorry to disappoint you if you're expecting her, but here I am, and I'm hoping not to disappoint. Um, I will talk over the next couple minutes just about our chapter, co-written by Nicole and myself, and we really, if you read the chapter, you'll see we had two case studies, one from our Ajax Fire Department and one for our senior snow program, which I'll touch on here. But really, if you take anything away from this, our message is municipalities are data rich. We have access to all kinds of data, but it's often sitting in the wrong space or being used the wrong way. With a little bit of intuition, a little bit of creativity, some support from leaders, and some clever folks, you can really do a lot with it. So that's really our message here. Our examples are dated in a sense that, if you asked us now, we probably could have come up with 30 other examples to put in this book, although these two are very relevant and we've been building off them ever since. To touch quickly, I'm sure many of you will look at this list and kind of be nodding your head that you're all in a similar boat. Some challenges that we in Ajax dealt with and are still dealing with. To be completely frank, I think we always will be in some way. You have data in silos, it's fragmented, it's sitting different places. Dare I say, someone's Excel book or OneNote or Notepad, or physical notepad, they're writing things down. It's all over the place. The data quality, can you see, I'm a GIS background guy, so try to aggregate a bunch of address data from different data sets. Maybe some of you have tried to do that, but everyone inputs data sets or address data differently, and try to get that together is always fun. So the same thing with standardization. We as municipalities all deal with legacy systems. These systems are holding data different ways. Now we got things in the cloud, you got things on premise, etc. And of course, data security, privacy concerns, which is huge right now. And then ultimately just insufficient data literacy. What can we as municipal staff, workers do with it? How do we do it? Sometimes it could be scary, those type of things. For us, again, it's something we've struggled with for years. I mean, we've had a GIS program since mid-2000. Not really a full-on data program, but that's something we're moving to now. But really, it was identified through, you'll see some strategic plans on the left, and we've actually done a couple since then, but this was the impetus here. This was the one that was these are the ones that were triggers for us. That's okay, we really need to do something with this information we have. We need to use our data better, stronger analytics. We need the people, the resources to actually make that happen. Not anyone can just pick up a Power BI and make something that is worth sharing. I mean, anyone can make anything out of Power BI, but it actually has to add value. GIS, in our perspective, again, we're kind of our data leaders. It may be the same for a lot of you. So me being a GIS guy, I love this third point is that it really needs to be a strategic enabler. People need to understand what GIS is all about, and how it can help you. It's not just someone to make maps, those type of things. And then ultimately, kind of from the overall architecture, is having these things integrated. when we're platforming, if you will, you're having data sets, databases, systems all speaking to each other, talking to each other, no longer fragmented, no longer all in different systems, or if they are, they got to be integrated properly. So just I'll explain these two, and I wouldn't be surprised if many of your municipalities have these type of things. I love the Ajax Fire Map. Again, being the GIS guy I am, GIS 101 in college or university, you always had your first task was always to figure out where are we going to put a fire hall in the this fake town kind of thing. So it just brings me back to my roots. But anyway. Any fire department, police department, are just very data rich, all kinds of data sets. In our case, we had this data like like incidents, smoke alarms, CO alarms, all again sitting with different groups and different databases or Excel, those type of things. So in this case, we brought it all together, and from that we're able to gather insights that actually meant something. So here you can see where this map here on our screen is just showing the fire incidents. If you look at the bottom, there's a bar there which has Get Real Ajax, which is it's our public outreach education. So essentially, I mean, you can't see this well here because it's not interactive, but what we're able to do is track where our public outreach went in any given year, kind of the areas of town. They pick different areas of town, and we can see, through hard numbers if those actually worked. And in that case, again, so did our fire incidences go down? If they didn't, obviously we're sharing the wrong message, or should we be talking more about CO alarms as opposed to other fire incidents, those type of things. So again, very basic example, but one that enabled our fire team to do things like resource properly. When they should have shifts and where should they be focusing their outreach, those type of things. The next thing, which is really if you've seen a Town of Ajax presentation, you may have seen this one before. This was kind of like our really big kickoff into this realm. So we do senior snow removal. In this case, in our case, residents sign up, and we go out during a snow event and clear their snow for them as part of the program. What was formerly a manual process, I actually did it myself 20 years ago. You'd get a piece of paper with a bunch of addresses, you'd go to the house, clear the snow, check a box off and say what time you were there. So now we've completely digitized it. Everything comes through an app that we built in-house. You're sent the addresses, it routes the crews to it. You, as a crew member, say what time you did it. You take a picture, as you can see in the top left there, to prove that you did it. So for any kind of insurance purposes that you may need it for. And you're done. You're there, you're done. Much more efficient from a program administrative level. It's giving us that data. We're getting all kinds of phone calls, so our admin staff, our supervisors are able to, determine and really improve that service by telling and speaking with residents about what exactly did happen, when it happened. If we haven't been there, oh, sorry, they're just down the road, because we can actually track where the trucks are, those type of things. Testimonial, you'll all be getting these presentations, so I won't share this, but again, it's always great to hear the testimonials from staff, how it's helped them, especially these are from the supervisors of how, and admin staff, of how much this has helped us as an organization provide this service. So again, just to summarize, the takeaways here, and of course, happy to talk more about this offline. We don't have a lot of time to go deep into it. But we as municipalities, as local governments, are sitting on all kinds of awesome data. We just need, the right minds, the right senior leadership to, follow our vision and approve our vision to make this happen. We're really well positioned to create value with the data. It's not something that municipalities are in my opinion, and I'm assuming many of yours, we don't haven't really traditionally done a great job of it, although it's sitting at our fingertips. We really need to embrace innovation, take some risks, generate some ideas, come up with these types of ideas similar to what Emma was talking about there. Let's get the most out of our staff and see what they have to say. So really, all this being said, this data it can improve our public service delivery, which is really what it's all about for us. It can make our staff more efficient, and it could make us better at making decisions as a leadership group. And that's it. Happy to take some questions at the end. Again, you can reach out to myself or Nicole. Happy to go much deeper into this and many other things if needed. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Just checking that you can see the slides okay. Thank you, Joe. Awesome. So thank you so much for inviting us to be here today. We are on to the third type of innovation, which is service innovation. And I'm here on behalf of the Hamilton Public Library to talk to you about extended access. So you've already heard about two specific innovations. And this one, what I'm going to share with you today is, once again, we'll go over what the background is, what the problem was that we were trying to solve, the innovation, and the key takeaways. For most of you would probably know, the city of Hamilton is an amalgamated municipality. We have both urban, suburban, and rural communities. And ever since amalgamation, the board direction has been for us to provide more consistent service hours across the city. This has always been a challenge. And in rural libraries in particular, across North America, not only here in Canada, one of the biggest challenges is that foot traffic is low, which obviously results in a very high operating cost. So we were working towards having consistent hours. And our rural branches at the time when this started back in 2017, and it's still going on, the implementations are still going on. Our rural branches were open approximately 3 hours per day or 17 hours per week. And so really, that was the situation at that time. We are trying to figure out how can we, move forward with this challenge. So the problem statement, as it is presented, is how could HPL expand service hours at rural locations specifically. There were 5 of them at that time after some closures following the amalgamation, without significantly increasing operating costs, which is something that you all know because it's happening right now and it's always been happening. How can you do more or the same with less funds? Nothing new about that. So before I go and tell you about the approach that we've taken, I wanted to share this quote with you. For those of you who listened to the Diary of the CEO podcast by Stephen Bartlett, I thought you would appreciate this. It says, "True innovation is nearly always born from the sweat and determination of persistent individuals and great teams, bound together by the right culture and philosophy, not from eureka moments, accidental fortune, or intentional genius." And before I tell you what that specific innovation is, I just want to say that as long as you know where you're going, you can always find an opportunity. I was literally sitting here listening to Chris, and I had an idea about something that we can do using data we already have. And I also wanted to share that just 2 weeks ago, I submitted a proposal for new position here at the library, and I literally used all of Emma's chapter to support the proposal I put forward. So back to HPL. So we already were well set. I would say that we definitely have a culture of innovation at the library. We position ourselves as being a learning organization. And in terms of innovating through technology, we have been very early adopters of RFID technology, something that pretty much all libraries have right now. We are definitely the early adopters. So what happened back then, this established vendor, we were working with a technology vendor at the time. This particular vendor came out with a new product. And the new product was something that at the time was available in the US and in Europe. It was a European vendor. And we knew that we had this problem of expanding hours at rural locations. And this particular product, basically, it's called Open Plus, and it allows entry into a library with a library card without staff being present. So that was the technology available. And the challenge was that this would have been the very first implementation in Canada. But it also presented some advantages. Being the first implementation in Canada, it put a lot of responsibility on us as an organization, because obviously if the implementation went well, then other libraries would have been quite likely to take this up. And if the implementation would have not gone well, then obviously this would have not expanded to other locations within the country. But it also presented some capital and operating cost savings because of this. The vendor provided some of the equipment at no cost and waived some of the operating costs for the initial few years. The challenge was also around a lot of media attention at that time. There was a lot in the media about staffless libraries and people losing jobs working in libraries at the time. There was a lot of fear, similar to AI taking over people's jobs right now. A lot of these things, there's a cycle to all of that. And so, we basically committed that with the implementation of this particular technology, we would not be cutting any staff. We would just simply be reallocating staff to doing other jobs. So we chose a pilot location. Like in most situations, the pilot was our Freelton branch. We went through a risk assessment, and really the service itself, the way it works is that you register your library card to have access to this. There are terms and conditions that you need to accept, and then you are allowed automatic entry scanning your library card. The risk assessment with the city, through the city of Hamilton, was obviously done to ensure that we consider all the possible things that would happen. You can imagine there was a lot at that time about basically having members of the public in a public place on their own, kind of unsupervised, with access to, things that we have besides, materials, technology, and all of those things. The way it also works is that there is a phone that they can contact somebody. There are cameras, there are sensors in the washrooms, and our security staff are on all the time. And I will also mention that this is only available during regular hours that our central library has, so that customers who visit those locations always have somebody that they can call for assistance. One of the things that resulted as part of this implementation was that because we were able to expand service hours, there was a huge benefit in terms of other things. So people would attend programs during the day, during staffed hours, and they would return during extended access. And the only last thing I want to say about this is that it really required ongoing communication from the early stages, both internally and externally, with our union and with the public, with the media, with the city, with the councillors, with the board, and so on. So since then, we have implemented this in 3 other locations. So we currently have extended access in 4 of our 5 rural locations, and it's going to be implemented in the 5th location once it is renovated, and renovations are supposed to start later this year. So in terms of key takeaways, as I mentioned, what we learned through this implementation, there was a lot of concern about the risk of doing something that hasn't been done before, the risk of what would happen. And so communication was essential. And we keep saying this thing, communication early, often, and with everyone. And in terms of managing risk, there is really no way that you can avoid all types of risks. You just need to do your due diligence, as you all know, and be prepared to adjust. We've had to make adjustments during the implementations because these facilities are different. We have a joint facility with an elementary school and with the city of Hamilton, and the one being a joint facility obviously was the one that required the most adjustments to the system and the longest implementation. One of the most important things for all of these innovations, not just the one that I'm presenting today, but through the examples in the book as well, is that you need to be deliberate about creating a culture where people feel supported to bring new ideas forward. And Emma really spoke beautifully to that about creating the systems and the processes to support people through innovation. And again, being public service, I believe Joe said right at the beginning how public service is really so front-facing. It is what we do. And so any kind of innovation in service will get a lot of attention from the public. And with that, what we've learned and what we continue to do is continue to build trust with our community, continue to deliver ongoing value for their tax dollars, and continue to, listen to all of the different parties, hear what they have to say, and still move forward. And so the best examples are that even more recently, we've used pretty much the same approach. We're just opening up a new branch with really no new staff resources, and we're about to launch a new service that is very much needed, and as far as we know is not offered at any other public library, and that's coming a bit later this fall. And lastly, I will leave you with a quote from our CEO and chief librarian that says, as it relates to extended access at our rural branches, we've given the keys of each branch back to the community. So thank you so much, and I will pass it on to Zach.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for your fantastic presentations today. And thanks to all of you for attending. I see your hands, your questions, I see your comments, and I'm going to get to those in 1 second. I'm just going to try to very briefly summarize some of the higher level findings from the book. You've seen 3 fantastic presentations today. There's only 3 of the 17 chapters. Unfortunately, we couldn't feature every single chapter and every single chapter author, but we think that there are some interesting and practical takeaways for you. So I'll try to do this quickly so we can turn things over to you and get to your questions. So I have just basically 5 main insights that I want to share that I think might be of interest to you as you try to be a little more innovative in your own organizations. The first is that innovation is broader than we think. I think that for the most part, when we think about innovation, we necessarily equate it with technology. And certainly we've seen technology come in part of each of these different presentations, and it surfaces in a number of different chapters, but that is really only part of the story. Much of what we saw with the chapters in our book is that innovation really begins with things like process, culture, and policy. Sometimes the most significant innovation is changing how decisions are made or how organizations think about risk, equity, or service delivery. Second, innovation is human, right? What I mean by that is that in almost every case, innovation started with people. It started with someone asking, well, why do we do things this way? And what are we missing? And could we do things in a different way? Each chapter identified what we call innovation champions, and these people exist at almost every single level in each of these organizations. It's not just coming from the top. It's not just coming from forward-thinking leaders. It is often coming from people who are deeply engaged with the public and are seeing the way that the process is not working for them. Third, leadership really is setting the conditions. So when leadership is not necessarily forcing the organization itself to be more innovative, they are setting the conditions and enabling innovation. The best leaders that we saw throughout the book create what we call a permission structure for innovation, by giving people autonomy, supporting experimentation, and then also protecting them when things don't work out the way that they had hoped. Fourth, Innovation builds and spreads, not just internally, but externally as well. When we see different branches and teams being more innovative and doing things differently, that's something that picks up. Innovation becomes infectious. And then finally, innovation takes time. Innovation is rarely fast. In fact, some of the chapters have projects that lasted decades or that took decades to really begin to realize benefits and returns. This means that the way that we evaluate and we have expectations around different projects needs to be calibrated carefully. Success isn't always immediate, and it can take years to actually realize what we are trying to accomplish. So, with that, let me just begin to get to some of these questions. There are a number of different interesting ones here. What I want to do is start with a comment from the Bill who asked this about 20 minutes ago. I've been patiently waiting for a response. This one is directed towards Emma. He has a lot of praise for the work that you are doing, and he asked, could you share more about how you measure innovation maturity? Do you have a standard innovation maturity assessment and framework? In addition, do you have a digital maturity framework or assessment as well?
Sure, happy to answer. Thanks for the question. So we looked around at different frameworks. There's a lot out there for innovation maturity. Most of them are targeted towards private sector. Of the ones that are public sector, it's rare to find something that's specific to municipal public sector or regional. So we built a customized innovation maturity framework, and that was the drivers of innovation that I presented. And we built our sort of measurement and assessment from that framework. So it was really informed by internal research. We did qualitative research internally to really define those drivers and understand how to measure them, getting feedback along the way. And we built something that I've seen really stay relevant over the years. And so as we're measuring it, we continue to create opportunities to tweak how we measure it, but it does allow a really good kind of self benchmark to go back to our baseline and see how we've changed over time. So that's how we did it. We don't have something specific to digital maturity. Really, that's our IT department that zeroes in on that work. We do have an element within our drivers of innovation that's focused on digital mindset, but I wouldn't say it's a comprehensive digital maturity framework.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I noticed in the Q&A as well that you mentioned to another person who's asking a question that you're happy to share resources. So feel free to connect with them either an email or LinkedIn. And it sounds like she's happy to share more about the journey here. Another great question here about rural municipalities and making use of data, especially when you don't have dedicated IT staff. And Chris, I was wondering if I could maybe pitch this to you to get your thoughts on it. So I think this is stemming from your presentation. What are some small steps that smaller municipalities without dedicated IT staff can take to start their journey towards leveraging the data that they have? I think that's a fantastic question. It's something that we came across in the book a few times. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a really good question too. It might sound weird of an IT guy saying this, but you don't necessarily need an IT person or an IT group to be, leading the charge from the data side of things. And I don't mean that to be negative or anything, but like where I'm going with that is you really need that idea. So I'm big on the show me type thing, right? So if you're a group, and I'm not sure how you're made up, but pick something like a champion, pick some sort of task or some sort of example that can show service improvements or kind of open people's eyes. I would say do that and share it as a story, just like we're doing here. Like our senior snow mapping was kind of that for us. It's like, wow, look what we could do. Yes, IT was involved, but pick something like that, champion it around the organization. Get people's eyes open that maybe they'll invest more in it or give you more resources or or something like that. The other thing too, and this is obviously a theme here, um, there's my experience with municipalities is they're always willing to help share. We openly often give out, templates, things we've done, and all you have to do is plunk your data into it, right? So that's the other thing I would suggest is reach out to the municipalities and the municipalities you connect with through AMCTO or other organizations, and they can certainly help you. That's what I would do. I unfortunately I've never been part of a smaller rural municipality like that, but that's the way you need that champion, you need that flagship to get it going and get people interested.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. And I just wanted to flag as well that I put a link in the chat. Joe and I have been writing about innovation for a long time, maybe too long, Joe. I'm not sure, but we did a case study of a smaller municipality for a case study series on digital transformation a number of years ago with IPAC, and just wanted to share that in the link in case that might be helpful as well. But it shows how you can leverage some technology and data without necessarily having a dedicated IT department. So we hope that that is helpful to you. Another question here, which I think Simona, you might be well placed to answer. Innovation is often viewed as a nice to have and not a need to have, so it isn't prioritized. Do you have any tips on sort of shifting that and making it a necessity or a priority within an organization?
Mhm. Well, thank you for asking me to answer that question, Zach, because I don't have the perfect answer. But here's what I'll say. I think that it's better that we don't necessarily call it innovation and put such big pressure on people. We are currently going through the stage of building something like Emma has described internally for our team. And I think what I've observed through this case study that I shared here and through the two examples that we're doing right now and overall is that there's really no need to necessarily talk about being innovative and an innovation at first. So I would think about a few things, and they were brought up, I think even you spoke to them, are you creating the conditions necessary for innovation to happen, right? Do people have time to explore and iterate ideas, right? And most importantly, are they clear on where we're going, right? Because that needs to be, part of innovating is taking advantage of opportunities that align with where we're going. So having clarity on that. And the other thing, obviously is creating an environment where people feel that if they take a risk and something doesn't work out, it's not a failure, it's a learning opportunity, right? Because if you don't try something, you're never going to know. But if you try something, now you're going to have something that you can apply. So I've seen this lived through, in my work over the years and here at the library specifically. I think that often when you use the word innovation, it becomes too much of a pressure. But certainly it can lead there, and then you can use the word outwardly.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Another fantastic question here, really kind of on the mindset shift. And I'm wondering if I can pose this to Emma, given all the work that you've done on organizational-wide transformation here. The question here is wondering if there's any insight on moving away from this is how we've always done things thinking that is often found at the management level. So typically aimed at management, but I think we can see this at all levels in certain organizations. Emma, I'm guessing that you've probably confronted this a few times in your work. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I do. And I think this really lies in the idea of alignment. Like essentially the challenge that the person who's asking the question is describing is that there's not alignment on that the problem even exists. And so I think strategic alignment can be a powerful thing. I think we use our strategic plans as check boxes a lot of the time. But you can really leverage that document or whatever that looks like in your organization to have that conversation about how what you're proposing connects to the priorities of the organization. So whether you're connecting it to one of the outcomes described in your strategic plan or specific metrics, think about how the thing that you want to change really connects to what everyone's already agreed to focus our efforts around, and that might help you get some traction.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And sort of on that, we've referred to that a few times. One of the things that one of the governments that I always like to look at is Singapore on this front, the way that they sort of have this continuous culture of improvement. And just a very quick quote here from the former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong, who says that we can never afford to be satisfied with the status quo, even if we are still okay. Even if our policies are still working, people say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I say, if it ain't broke, better maintain it, lubricate it, replace it, upgrade it, try something better, and make it work better than before. So one of my favorites there from that. So we I don't see any more active questions in the Q&A. If you have a last one, I think we have a minute or two. One of the ones that I did notice coming earlier from Annette, and maybe Chris, so we can give a quick response if that's okay with you. She was curious about the senior snow program. Do the seniors pay for this program? How are you able to staff it? And what do you do if a senior can't afford to subsidize it?
Hmm.
Or
So,
can't afford it, do you subsidize it? Sorry about that.
yeah. So I'll start by saying we definitely reach out and we can talk more about it. And I may actually pass you off to someone like Nicole Cooper who would be more into this. But yeah, so seniors do pay for it. It's funded through or subsidized in a way through our tax dollars, as far as I'm aware. Like I mentioned, I used to do it as a student. We used to have students would come in. I would be on like an on-call list every winter, and they'd call me in to do it, and I'd work for for hours and hours clearing snow. But pretty sure now it's full of like our seasonals and full-time staff who do it. If you do go on our website, you can find it there, and like the service levels are, somewhat relaxed in the sense of, 24 hours after the snow goes, it has to be 5 centimeters. Like just to manage it any, more than that would be pretty expensive. But the last question, I honestly don't know the answer to. If we subsidize someone who cannot pay, I'm not sure. Again, we can connect with me and I can put you in, yeah, I can connect you with the right person to answer some of those questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. So I'm cognizant of the time. So when we begin to wrap, I just wanted to very quickly send out a couple of thanks to our presenters. This is the second time that they have joined us to present the chapters. And of course, as Joe mentioned, it was a long haul to get things printed and finished and copyrighted and everything, which is just the process with writing books. So thank you for hanging in there with us. Thank you, of course, to AMCTO for hosting us today, but a big thank you to McGill-Queen's University Press, to Anna and to Emily Andrew, who shepherded this project through. A big thanks to them, particularly because this is not a typical academic book project. The typical way to do this in the academic world is to have people like Joe and I go out and recruit other academics who would do case studies of different governments. And that is one way of doing it, but that's not a book that I think would be practical to those who are working within the sector and actually delivering these services. So we decided to cut out the middleman, the academic middleman, so to speak, and allow practitioners to tell their stories in their own voices. And this is not something that an academic press would typically take on. McGill-Queen's did. So if you are someone out there who has an interesting project, McGill-Queen's is the place to sort of take on those. We really appreciate their support for this book. So big thank you to Anna, Emily, and the entire team at McGill-Queen's University Press. So with 2 minutes left, I'm going to hand it over to Jacqueline, who I think will be filling in for Dave at the end here, given he is having all these audio challenges. Jacqueline is not, and she's going to wrap up today for us. Thanks so much.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. Yeah, once again, I just want to thank Zach and the rest of our panelists for joining us for the webinar and for kind of taking us through your thought process and how the book came together and the work that you've done for your communities kind of through that work and through some of these innovative projects, which I'm sure lots of good takeaways can be kind of adapted from that and applied to other regions and municipalities across the province. So once again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you to Anna and McGill-Queen's University Press. You'll see I posted in the chat, there's a link to the book, so that's where you can purchase it on the McGill-Queen's press site. There's also a special discount code there available to you as AMCTO members, and as a special additional thank you for attending the webinar today. So through our affinity partnership with McGill-Queen's University Press, all AMCTO members have access to, usually it's a 30% discount off all publications, but again, for these kind of special author talks and webinars, we like to give a little extra thank you for, participating and engaging with us. So it's the code AMCTO45 will get you a 45% discount at checkout if you would like to purchase the book. After this, I'll make sure to send out a copy of the webinar recording, the slides as well as that discount information for you, and the link back to our McGill-Queen's affinity partner page on our website, where you can sort of stay up to date on other talks like this we might have coming up in the future, other sort of publications that we might feature, and to get the details for that regular member discount of the 30% off. So yeah, thank you all again for joining us, and hope you have a great rest of your summer and a great weekend. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.